We'll call this meeting of the City Council to order.
Mayor Weiss.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Feller.
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez. Here. Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
Councilmember Keim. Here.
And if you would all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, if the council would join me out front, we're going to have our Employee Service Awards. And all the directors to please join us.
I'm sorry? Oh, right. Good evening, Mayor Weiss, council members, department directors, and audience. It is with great pleasure that we present to you tonight employees who have reached the praiseworthy accomplishment of 20, 25, and 30 years of service with the City of Oceanside. When your name is called, please come forward. Ruben Aguilar. Ruben initiated his career with the City of Oceanside on January 24, 1999 as a Maintenance Worker 1 in water utilities. Ruben has worked his way through the Maintenance Worker series and currently serves as Utility Worker 3. Let's congratulate Ruben for 20 years of service to our community. Thank you, Ruben. Next, we have two employees with 25 years of service. Jeremy Kemp. Jeremy launched his career with the City of Oceanside as maintenance assistant on March 27, 1994. Jeremy has held multiple positions within the Water Utilities Department and currently serves as a utility supervisor. Let's congratulate Jeremy on 25 years of service. Thank you, Jeremy. Scott Rogers. Scott began his career with the City of Oceanside on March 27, 1994, as a maintenance assistant with the Water Utilities Department. Scott currently serves as a Utility Worker 3. Thank you for your dedication. Let's congratulate Scott for 25 years of service. Thank you, Scott. Next, we have 4 employees with 30 years of service. Sergeant Jose Favala. Sergeant Favala initiated his career with the City of Oceanside on February 10, 1989 as a police recruit. Sergeant Favala has devoted his career to public safety. Let us congratulate Jose for 30 years of service to our community. Thank you. Next, we have Peter Lawrence. Peter launched his career with the City of Oceanside on April 10, 1989, as an emergency preparedness coordinator with fire administration. Peter served as Administrative Service Officer from July 92 until he became Division Chief in December 1998. Thank you for your continued service and commitment. Thank you, Peter. Jesus Montano. Jesus began his career with the City of Oceanside on March 19, 1989, as Maintenance Worker 1 in the Water Utilities Department. Jesus has held several positions within water utilities and currently serves as a Senior Utility Worker. Let's congratulate Jesus for 30 years of service. And lastly, Jimmy Walker. Jimmy began his career with the City of Oceanside on April 3, 1989, as Maintenance Worker 1. Jimmy has dedicated his career to the Water Utilities Department and currently serves as a maintenance specialist. Let us congratulate Jimmy on 30 years of service. Thank you, Jimmy. That concludes our service awards for tonight. Congratulations once again.
This time, I'd like to invite all of the Poppy people to join us up front for the recognition of Poppy Month.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Suzanne Brewer from the American Legion Auxiliary Unit 146 here in Oceanside. And I'd like to thank everybody. Every year, Oceanside City Council has been kind enough to give us a proclamation proclaiming May as Poppy Month. It's the one month that we have using poppies to raise money to help serve our veterans. And so that you know what we do with our money, we support Stand Down in North County. In the past, before we had one in North County, we did support the San Diego Stand Down. We also support veterans that are in the Veterans Clinic, that come to the Veterans Clinic in Oceanside, and also those that are in the hospital in La Jolla. We have groups that make quilts, lap robes, bibs, walker bags and things. We have a very, very busy unit that we're always doing things to better serve our veterans. And if anybody has any ideas, we welcome your input. But again, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all you do. That would be interested in your poppies, so
See, the mic is on.
you can hand them out and we'll go to item 3, Mr. Mullen.
Thank you. I'll give the closed session report. The council met at 3:30 in closed session to discuss item 2 on the closed session agenda. There was no meeting on item 1. Item 2 was a conference with legal counsel on existing litigation in the workers' compensation cases involving Stilson versus City of Oceanside. There's 5 separate case numbers that were collectively discussed. Those case numbers appear on page 2 of the agenda. The council did give direction on that item, but there's no action to report under the Brown Act at this time.
Thank you. And with that, we'll go to our consent calendar. And item 9 has been pulled. Is that correct there, Mr. City Clerk?
Your mic's not working.
So, Councilmember,
Item number 9 has been pulled by staff.
there.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Move approval for balance.
So we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
And with that, we'll go to item 15, which is a resolution regarding the management district plan for the city. Yes.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council members. Tracy Boland, City of Oceanside Economic Development Manager. I'm here today to talk about the modification to the Oceanside Tourism Marketing District. So the state of California allows this self-assessment of hoteliers in the State and Highway Code. The TMD was first established in 2010. It was renewed in 2015 for 10 years, and they're currently self-assessing at 1.5% of their gross revenue. And the city receives a 1.6% fee for the service, about $10,000 a year. This proposed revision is going to define in their management district plan 2 different categories of businesses. So hotel, motel businesses and vacation rental businesses. And change the assessment on just the hotel, motel businesses to 2.5%, leaving the vacation rentals at the current rate of 1.5%. And the revenue, the current revenue from the TMD is a little over $1 million. We're anticipated to collect an additional $600,000 in revenue for the Visit Oceanside group, which kind of markets the city to the world for bringing tourists and filling our hotel rooms. The new total budget will be just over $1.6 million, it's anticipated. And this chart's very small, hard to see, but it's just giving you a comparison of other coastal communities. It's in your packet as well. And that we're right in line with other, actually lower still than other coastal communities by budget and by rate, even with the increase. So there's 3 meetings that need to be held to accomplish this goal. This is the first meeting and where you would adopt a resolution of intention to modify the tourism marketing district and just start the process. May 8th will be just an open meeting to hear public comments, and the last meeting will be the June 19th meeting where you would have the ability to adopt the resolution of modification. And with that, I'm going to bring up Leslie Gall. She's the CEO of the Visit Oceanside Group and a strong supporter with the city. Let me get her presentation.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Wise, Deputy Mayor, and City Council members. On behalf of Visit Oceanside and the Board of Directors, I want to thank you for your time tonight. We really appreciate your time and the partnership we've enjoyed by your leadership over the years. You've really helped us get to where we are as it relates to tourism in Oceanside. In addition, I'd like to thank the City Manager and City staff, Deanna Lorson and Tracy Boland, for their continued support, the support on the modification, and the collaboration that we've enjoyed over several years. We've really been able to work on some projects that really helped made a positive impact in the hospitality industry. For everybody's sake, we're kind of going to try to breathe through this presentation pretty quickly. We wanted to give you a brief highlight on where we've come and then talk about moving forward some of the goals in the strategic plan for the next several years. It will take us through 2024. So a brief highlight, you know that visitor spending to Oceanside has grown significantly over the past several years. In 2017, we generated a record amount at $351 million in direct visitor spending. This was a 10% increase over 2016. Visitor spending directly supported over 3,300 jobs in Oceanside. And this is an average increase of 5.1% annually since 2010. According to Consumer Horizon Science, Visit Oceanside influences 1/3 of visitor spending annually. And of course, the city is a recipient of that visitor spending through tax dollars that are generated. You can see that's grown over the years in local tax receipts. Last year, it grew 12.3% over 2016. And if you consider the local and state taxes, it's about double that. And this, of course, pays for vital city services such as our police, fire, infrastructure, things like that. So as Tracy mentioned, this gives you a sense of what's happening in the Southern California marketplace. There is a lot of supply coming into Oceanside, so when you consider the supply coming in versus what we're faced with the competition as a Southern California beach community, this gives us the opportunity to compete and grow our market share. If you look at the budgets, our budget will still be relatively small compared to some of the competition in Southern California. Our tourism marketing district is quite a bit less than what the other districts are. It was important to our lodging partners that we remain a great value for our community as a destination, so that was important to them. And then also, if you look at the staff and the salespeople, one of the focuses is to grow group business development in the off-season and to have the staff to compete with other destinations. We want to be able to grow that. Our sales teams are quite a bit smaller. As I mentioned, the whole point is, and what we heard over and over from our lodging partners, is to really grow demand in the off-season. This kind of gives you a glimpse of what it looks like. Green is good. Green, we're averaging over 75% occupancy. If you look at yellow, that's kind of in the middle, and orange is not good. That's below 65% occupancy, and we've been tracking this since 2014. So we would like to turn that September through May season and have it look a little bit more like the summer season. Leisure is our bread and butter. It's really important to us as a destination, but how can we diversify a little bit and try to grow that share, and that's what we want to do with the strategic marketing plan. So our strategic framework is composed of three kind of key things that we want to tackle. As I mentioned, grow that visitor demand in the off-season. We want to create a tourism master plan. We feel like that's really important if we want to move the needle. We don't have near enough dollars to throw into the marketing place to be spent on marketing. So what does it look like? How can we improve infrastructure? How can we improve product development? How can we improve other markets and grow more of the corporate market for a more diverse, balanced tourism program? And we think a tourism master plan will help us get there if we want to significantly move the needle in the off-season. And we also embrace the notion of responsible tourism. We really want to have more balance, look at different markets that impact other areas of the community in a positive way, not just relying on beach in the summer, but how do we look at having that impact in other parts of the city as well as other markets. Growing business development in the off-season was one of our key strategies. We want to grow the sales team, as I mentioned, that's equipped for the future. We need to be able to leverage technology in ways that sales teams operate. We want to be able to expand our trade show list throughout the year, client events, partner with the lodging hotels on things like that. We want to increase citywide room nights by 50% by targeting 3 new citywides during need periods. These citywides don't necessarily mean at the beach. It could be partnering with some of the activities at El Corazon or SoCal Sports Complex or even South Morro Hills. So it's really going after those events, seeing what's a good fit, and being able to sponsor and provide an incentive to bring that group here. We want to expand new markets look at more of the, right now we're heavily Smurf. What are those other opportunities we can look at? And then overall, just increase that total impact by 7% annually. And I wanted to put this up to give you an example as what I'm talking about is competing with these citywide events. In 2015, we held the ISA World Youth Surf Championships. Hopefully a lot of you remember that. It was an incredible event for our community. Brought in people in October from 30 different countries. The average length of stay was 12 nights. It was a great event for Oceanside, and we built that relationship with them with the idea that they would come back in 2018 before the Olympics. We were working with them to host this event. It was looking really positive. Visit Huntington Beach came in at the last minute with a $100,000 sponsorship, and up went the ISA World Youth Championship to Huntington Beach in October, last October. So that, again, will allow us to compete with things like that, especially those events that make sense for us and are a great personality fit. Another thing that we want to focus on in the short term is improve the product development and infrastructure. We want to continue to work with you to grow new product development opportunities, such as the AgriVision strategic plan. We think that is a really unique concept and really separate us from other beach destinations to be able to implement that plan. Arts and culture, the cultural district, working with them to create activities throughout the year, looking at a signature event in the off season for that, and things that tie in the high schools, the local high schools, into those cultural events for educational opportunities. There's also things we can do with the culinary industry that we've created, and then of course sports tourism, really looking at El Corazon and the different sporting activities that will be developed there. We want to support economic development opportunities. We think there's key sectors we can leverage with action sports, biotech, education, and manufacturing. Again, developing that. We don't have the luxury of a strong corporate market in the off-season like other destinations. And the great thing about that market, they come, they stay in our hotels, they eat at our restaurants, and the locals don't even know they're in town, but yet they're spending money. And then, of course, we want to continue to support infrastructure improvements, beautification, safety, and cleanliness of our community. This is a quote from a hospitality management company in the UK. I love this quote. I think it says it well. When communities invest money into tourism in a responsible manner that preserves the local heritage and culture, as well as improving infrastructure and beautification that improves the local facilities, it will in turn create better education, better leisure amenities, more cultural and special events, and thus a better lifestyle for the local people. Due to the demand for better services, varied employment opportunities are created within the region, and therefore people do not feel the need to migrate to other cities to earn their living. So in short, this says, build a community that is positive for our local community. It will draw businesses and skilled workers to come into Oceanside and help create that diverse tourism that we need throughout the year. And finally, I want to talk about maximizing the destination brand. This is something we've worked really hard on to really grow the brand and unify our voice as an industry and as a community. Really appreciate that partnership with economic development on that. So we want to continue that. We have a really unique vibe in Oceanside. It's important to us to protect that because that differentiates us from other beach destinations, and that's really hard to do. We also want to increase our earned, owned, and bought media to fully leverage our key drive markets. And there's a lot more that we can do. We haven't even really tipped the iceberg on what we're able to do in the different drive markets. We invest a lot in media, which has been a really good catalyst for more media, positive media on the area. We also want to develop more content. Content is king in the internet, and digital is where a lot of our money is being spent right now. We also want to develop 3 strategic partnerships with local major lifestyle brands to elevate Oceanside's brand across multiple platforms. We have a lot of really cool brands that really speak to the authenticity of our destination, and we want to leverage affinity marketing with them. We're already doing this. We're getting ready to launch a campaign with the Outbound Collective. The Outbound Collective is the TripAdvisor for the action sport travel, adventure traveler. We've partnered with Hobie Cat, Penny Skateboards, Suja Juice, and Surf Ride, and utilizing the outbound platforms as well as their platforms to really have a cohesive voice in marketing the destination. And again, that lends to the genuineness of our brand. And then, of course, we want to purchase and utilize data science driven research. We spend a lot of money on that right now. It really helps us to refine our marketing programs and our tactics as we move forward. Why is this important and how does this impact the city? I'd just like to give this example. I think it's a good example. In 2017, $7.4 million was generated in hotel tax for the city, and that was based on that occupancy and ADR at that time. If we are able to grow demand and increase occupancy that's equivalent to what is occurring in San Diego and the San Diego region at 80% year-round, that drives ADR, and that would generate an additional $3 million in hotel tax into the city's general fund. And that's just growing demand. We feel like it's really important that we don't saturate with supply, that we'll really focus on increasing what's already here, and that will increase funds into the TOT. I think it's important to note that the lodging represents about 30% of total visitor spending. That means there's 70% of visitor spending out there in restaurants, attractions, retail, that are generating those sales tax dollars as well. And with that, in closing, I would just like to thank you again for your time. We really appreciate it. We really hope that you will support the hotels industry and the lodging industry's desire and opportunity to expand their market share in the off-season, because it sustains and cultivates an industry that is important to our city's health and vitality, and that impacts the quality of life for our local residents. And with that, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Is there any public?
We have 10 speaker slips, but the speakers do not wish to talk. They just wish to lodge their support in favor of this.
Thank you. How about those 10 stand up?
Can you all stand?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Feller.
The question I posed to the city manager when we were talking this over, I had asked if this was a citywide OTMD, and it is. It was unclear to me when I was reading it, and it makes sense because we do, as I told the Beach and Harbors Committee the other night, it's not just the harbor that attracts people here, it's a lot of parts of our city, and so I think we should take advantage of that. So I will move to adopt the resolution.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Yeah, I did have some questions, actually. The chart with the other coastal cities, was that, because there was only one other city in that chart that actually was in San Diego County, and I'm assuming that we're really competing with other coastal cities in San Diego County. So you had Newport Beach, Huntington Beach, Santa Barbara, which I really don't think we're competing with them. Why did you include those cities and not other cities in San Diego County, the other coastal cities in San Diego County?
So we actually do compete with Huntington Beach, and we compete with Carlsbad, and Carlsbad's in there. The only cities in San Diego County that have a tourism marketing district are the city of San Diego, Carlsbad, and Oceanside.
Okay. Why do you think we lost the jazz concerts in the summer that were at the band shell?
That I think city staff might be better prepared to answer that question, because we look at more of the larger events that generate room nights. I think those are wonderful amenities that we enjoy as a community. It's amenity for a tourist when they come, but it isn't the type of things that we try to draw here, because we're focused on those that are generating the room nights. So I don't know if the city staff can answer that question.
Honorable Mayor, council members, Councilmember Sanchez, I don't know the answer to that, but I will find out and advise the council.
Thank you. And I mean, I had a couple of other questions, but I guess what I'll do is, because I know we have other meetings coming up. When we first talked about looking at our TOT for the city of Oceanside and, trying to figure out how to balance everything, because of course everything costs, and you can't pay for the beach. But it costs to maintain the beach. You can't pay for, the kind of things that are important to maintaining a downtown. And so one of the things that, like for example, the city of Solana Beach did was increase their TOT to be able to have a revenue stream for sand replenishment program. We discussed that as a council, and we decided not to do that. And then after that, Leslie, you came to the council about, this idea about, using TOT, having the hotel motels in Oceanside contribute to this fund to be able to market and bring more people and fill in the rooms. I understand that part of this also is the fact that we're going to have a brand new hotel fairly soon, and that is the Beach Resort hotel. So that would be another reason to justify these costs. You have in your pamphlet, you have like a summary of, what your expenses are and why you need the extra $600,000. Could you spend a little more time justifying that? Because I thought that you were going to be asking for a half cent, but you're asking, a half cent percent, and you're asking for a whole percent. So could you just spend a little more time justifying it? So because this is going to marketing the downtown for tourism. It's not, and there are some advantages to, say, residents. But for the residents who sometimes tell me, Oceanside only cares about its tourists, it doesn't really care about its citizens anymore. What can you say to address that concern?
So it's because our goal and the lodging industry's goal is to move the needle in the off season. And by doing that and filling that occupancy that you could see is much needed in the off season, it does generate tax dollars to help pay for those amenities for our locals that they do enjoy. So it is specifically targeting, growing the group business, growing the opportunities to go after events such as ISA World Youth Surf or other events that occur, like I say, at El Corazon or other places that impact other areas. Because we do believe in being responsible with that. And if we do that, I feel like we're a more desirable destination. We win in the long term if we're taking care of those amenities that impact the local community. That will draw and have more balanced tourism, and that's what we want to focus on. That's what the lodging partners want to focus on, is moving that needle in the off-season midweek.
I think we're also trying to get more restaurants downtown, better restaurants, more activity, like for us to be able to attend rather than go to somewhere else like San Diego, or I'd never go to Huntington Beach. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, I think that when we market outside, I think we also need to explain to the public why this is such a good idea, because we are doing one thing instead of another, and and your position basically is that this is it gets more bang for the buck, right? I mean, that's what your position is, right? Because there are a lot of things that we could certainly sand replenishment is something that we need as well, but for this, the TOT because we can't ask for the stars and the moon. At some point, we can only do as much as other cities can't charge, right? Right.
And that was really important to stay under that level.
Right.
So we still could be a good value and very family oriented. And real quick, if I may, I've had a couple of restaurants let me know, and I think this is beautiful. They love the locals, and they know their locals are number one, but the tourism dollar gets them up to where they're actually making money. So it's that balance and maintaining that balance. We don't want to ever come overrun, but it's that balance.
And what percentage of the industry do you think backs this request? Because it's basically a self-tax kind of a thing. What percentage do you think is supporting this?
Well, when we implemented the TMD and we renewed the TMD, we had over 80% support for it.
Okay. And of course, we have other hotels coming up, right?
Right, and I've spoke with Jeremy and some of the others, and they've been supportive as well.
Right. All right, I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you.
If we can go to item 21, which is advance written request to speak by Mr. Wally Stevens.
Stevens? Mr. Stevens? Mr. Stevens?
Do we have
Wally?
any? Do we have any on number 22? He is here.
Good evening. I'm Wally Stevens. I don't need a mic normally. I'm here to talk about business license. I hear a lot of good stuff going on tonight. I came to Oceanside. We had 18,000 people as a young Marine. And, huh?
Yeah, we can't hear you. People
You
can't hear you.
me? God.
You need to
I'm
speak to the
slipping.
mic.
Okay, all right.
There you go.
1958 with the Marine Corps. Got my first sunburn in my life at the pier. I fell in love with a lady at Herb's Drive in 1963, and this has been my home ever since. We've moved around, but we've come back. I'm looking to, I got my business license now. I'm a public advocate, and I'm pursuing other things. I have, my primary question tonight is, why do businesses come in Oceanside from out of state, out of town, I like the tourism idea, and they don't bother to get an Oceanside business license? Their tenants get business licenses, but those properties and those investors also require services of the city of Oceanside. I'm being brief tonight. I've been contacted by people inside city employees, and I consider every city employee one of my kids now, because all my family's gone. And I will protect them, I will help them, and I will respond to them. But what I'm asking you as a council, to please, that's one item, and you know what my other item is. So let's look into it. I'm going to be looking into it. I'm going to bring it to your attention. Now, with regard to Soapy Joe's, and I know it's not on the agenda, I have found out that someone here has a familial connection to the Soapy Joe's Greenbrier project. I would ask that that particular person recuse themselves from having any input into the Soapy Joe's project. Thank you, Peter. I did a good job. I got it under 3 minutes. But I'll be back. Thank you.
Do we have anyone on 22?
We have 6 speakers on item number 22. First speaker is Robert Walker, to be followed by Dirk Akima, to be followed by Nick Ritchie,
Sure how to turn this on? Oh, it's on. Okay. Council members, Mayor, I'm Bob Walker. I live in Oceanside, and I'm here to talk about sand retention at the beach. And I need to reach over here real quick. What we've got right here, I've got quite a few photographs here, and I'm just going to go through and explain what they are. We're starting off with the harbor. And if you look at this, I'm going to zoom in real quick. If you look in, you'll see that the north portion of that is Delmar Beach on Camp Pendleton. And if you see, the jetty is holding all the sand and keeping that sand to the north. If you look at the Oceanside Harbor, just to the south of that, we also have sand. It's being retained by a jetty right there. And then if we look down the ocean side, you're going to see that we get to a point where there's no sand whatsoever, and we're not retaining any sand at all. If we zoom over, Okay, this right here is Carlsbad. This is the Tamarack Beach and the Warm Waters Beach, and you'll notice that the jetties there are also holding in that sand. It's retaining the sand to the north. Okay, now we've gone south. We've moved down to Coronado Beach, and if you notice that little beach right there, there's a small jetty that's also holding that sand to the north. And if you look real close, you'll see that jetty is actually like a little, it's created like a little wedge right there. It's holding that. It's a little croissant, and it's holding all that sand to the north. Speaking of wedges, let's go take a look at Newport Beach. Okay, this is Newport Beach, and if you look at that, there's 8 jetties sitting right there. And those jetties have been retaining that beach for a long time. When I was 50 years ago, I used to surf up there, and those jetties were there back then. So the city of Newport Beach has been able to have a nice beach for quite some time. We go south. We're now looking at this is Salt Creek, halfway down the page there. You'll see all that sand right there. They have a natural barrier that's holding that sand. And then if you look south, you'll also see that there's a natural barrier that's holding it down there at the Dana Strands. And that's holding that sand in there. And it all keeps it up to the north on the north sides of those jetties. This is Laguna Beach. They also have natural barriers that holds all their beaches also. And so they're lucky to have these natural barriers where we don't have those. This is Oceanside. We don't have any barriers down along our coast. And so let me just wrap it up real quick. This is Wisconsin Beach. And this is also at Wisconsin Street. And notice that sign right there. It basically says pedestrians, or if you're going to use this beach, use it at your own risk. And so we're just talking about tourism, and I don't think that invites the tourists very well. So let's please do something about trying to retain our sand. Thank you.
Next speaker is Dirk Akima, to be followed by Nick Ritchie, to be followed by Kelly McCormick.
Good evening, Council. My name is Dirk Akima. I reside at Crestville Drive, and I'm a 30-year resident of Carlsbad, of Oceanside. Bob and I got together and we formed this group, SOS Oceanside, to really be local advocates for sustainable beaches to protect our beach environment here locally. I have an email I'm going to send to you guys tomorrow, but I'd like to read it here in front of Council. Members of Oceanside City Council, Oceanside beaches are part of a naturally eroding coastline which stretches from Dana Point to La Jolla. Waves, tides, and currents sweep sand off beaches in a southerly direction. Sand will only accumulate when a projecting headland acts to interrupt the current. Our harbor is an excellent example of this. Camp Pendleton's Delmar Beach has accumulated an abundance of sand and suffers no erosion problems. All the existing improvements there on Camp Pendleton are safe from storm surges due to a healthy beach protecting the coastline. Another good example is also our harbor beach, because we have a couple of jetties that retain the sand there. Oceanside beaches are a critical point of not being able to protect property along the Strand and Pacific Street from high tides and storm surges. Also, the shrinking beaches don't offer an appealing experience for visitors. It's important to recognize that a healthy beach can be Oceanside's best attraction. We must take action to create sustainable beaches for our visitors and our future prosperity. The Sand Nourishment Project, which the city is considering, will help us get through this summer with an adequate beach. It's likely, though, that most of this sand will be washed away by storms this next winter. The 2001 Sandag Beach Erosion Study identifies Oceanside as a natural location where jetties would work to our advantage. It's time for Oceanside to design and submit to the Coastal Commission for approval a series of jetties to protect our beaches and property. Now, granted, that sounds easy, but it's actually going to be quite difficult. Getting something through the Coastal Commission can be quite a challenge, but I think it's imperative that the City of Oceanside accept that challenge and put in motion an effort to achieve that. Oceanside can be a leader in the North County by creating a sustainable coastline. Funding can come from a variety of federal, state, local, or private sources. As our beaches are restored, our reputation, our economy, and our prosperity will be ensured for the future. Thank you.
Next speaker is Nick Ritchie, to be followed by Kelly McCormick, to be followed by Joe Hill.
If he called your name, come down to the podium so you can go right as soon as they're done.
Hi, my name is Nick Ritchie. I live at 133 Sherry Lane. Good evening, council members, mayor. Any of you guys remember that feeling you had when your boyfriend or girlfriend broke up with you and you never saw it coming? It was a complete surprise. You were befuddled, right? Some citizens in Oceanside are feeling that way now in regards to the April 17th, 2019 Budget and Measure X workshop, in which a homeless services program funded by Measure X was recommended and preliminarily voted 5-0. What happened to the input by the Homeless Ad Hoc Committee? Weren't they supposed to study this issue and make recommendations to be presented to the Housing Department by June? Yet you have created a homeless service without citizen input. Why the rush? Additionally, you have selected a housing first model to spend Measure X tax dollars on. Successful data to support this model is spotty and corrupted by poor collection methods. But hey, there's money available to support this model. So why did we not request a portion of the county's $28 million homeless fund in the meeting with Supervisor Desmond? So we were choosing to use the dollars by the citizens to fund this? Why? And also, please, I didn't read anything in that talked about accountability. There has to be accountability for any services that will be given to anybody. It makes no sense otherwise. Also, it's come to my attention that Larry Flint Productions wants to open a Hustler Hollywood store on Mission. I encourage you to do all you legally can to prevent this store from being a reality. We already have a similar shop on Pier Way. And then also, I'd like to kind of change it up a little bit. We have Earth Festival this Saturday, and I'd certainly like to encourage everybody to come out. Last year we had over 10,000 people, and it's a great event. And also, these little pamphlets are going to be distributed, and I believe he did distribute them. These were created by the Chamber of Commerce and also the Visit Oceanside. They did a 2,500 print on this. What we're trying to do is change people in the way that they look at in giving money to help people. We all want to help people. There's no doubt about it. But sometimes when we give them money, we might be hurting them more than helping them. This encourages people to take their money and to give that money to the organizations in North County that are set up to actually help people. So these are going to be distributed. And I also wanted to show you another thing that Bread of Life has created. And by the way, on this little sheet, I want to get back to this. Brother Benno's is not here. It is not on this sheet. Only Bread of Life is. And I'm trying to make a point. But this is Bread of Life once again. So if you still want to give things to people, you can buy this $25 little coupon book. And if someone comes up to you and asks for money, you can give this to them. It's $5. It encourages them to come to Bread of Life and to use this to spend in their thrift store. And while they're there, then an advocate will come beside them and ask them, is there anything else that we can do to help you?
Mr. Ritchie, please wrap it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speakers are Kelly McCormick, to be followed by Joe Hill, to be followed by Ann Olmstead.
Good evening, I'm Kelly McCormick. I'm a public health educator and I run a youth mentoring program. I would like to bring you an update that 25 California cities are suing the state to challenge a recent ruling that allows the home delivery of marijuana in cities and counties where pot shops and deliveries are banned. The law firm of Churchill White has filed the suit on behalf of the lead plaintiff, the County of Santa Cruz, joined by Covina, Downey, Riverside, Beverly Hills, and others. The California League of Cities supports the lawsuit. 80% of California's 482 municipalities have banned stores selling pot for recreational purposes. Beverly Hills Mayor John Mirisch called the state's new policy a bait and switch. The lawsuit notes that Prop 64 included language to preserve local control, guaranteeing that local governments would have veto power over pot sales in their jurisdictions. The plaintiffs believe the Bureau of Cannabis Control has acted improperly by changing the terms of Prop 64. Officials from those cities and counties voiced concerns that home deliveries of recreational pot would lead to robberies of cash-laden delivery vehicles and an influx of illegal sellers blending in with the licensed fleet. Downey Mayor Rick Rodriguez said residents in his city are concerned that pot businesses will be a magnet for crime. He added, quote, "This skirts the original agreement in Prop 64. We feel lied to. It's a broken promise," end quote. A statement issued by the League of Cities states that home delivery rule undermines the voters' intent to retain local control. Oceanside residents hope that diligent attention will be paid to any problems that arise here with marijuana businesses as the city moves forward. Thank you.
Next speaker is Joe Hill, to be followed by Ann Olmsted.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, Joe Hill, 2855 Rutgers Place, Oceanside, and co-leader of Represent Oceanside. As the local chapter of Represent Us, Represent Oceanside is a unified, diverse grassroots movement. We advocate protection of every resident's right to an equal voice and impartial, transparent governance for the public good by holding the City of Oceanside staff and officials to the highest ethical and legal standards. So we have a problem with the council meeting on March 27th regarding item 24, amending ordinance 3018 for building heights. If you were not here, just watch the online council meeting video, and you'll notice at 39 minutes and 50 seconds, Councilmember Rodriguez says he cannot support the measure and appears to read from a prepared statement and gives a passionate speech as his own opinion as to why he can't support it. What he did not tell us or acknowledge to anyone was that he was reading word for word from a developer-builder letter of opposition to the measure, which was part of staff report attachment 5. That developer is Hallmark Communities, and the copy of the letter, as you see, on the second page, the yellow highlighting page, shows the parts of the letter that he read word for word. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not acceptable. Where is the impartial transparency? Where are the ethics? Was Councilmember Rodriguez representing this development while sitting as a voting member of the City Council? These are all questions we have. Maybe he was looking out for the future of his real estate business. But this lack of transparency with this incident certainly ruins the trust our voters and residents expect from our City Council. And here's the most puzzling thing of all. After all of this that I just told you, Councilmember Rodriguez did finally make a motion and reluctantly voted for the original amendment measure after disagreeing with a number of very common sense modifications that were suggested by Mayor Weiss and Councilman Sanchez. That motion did fail in a previous vote. Thank you very much for your time.
Our next speaker is Ann Olmsted.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Ann Olmsted, and I'm the president of the League of Women Voters, North County, San Diego. And I'd wish to read to you a letter that I trust has been delivered to you also. Honorable Mayor and City Council members and City Manager. The Oceanside unit of the League of Women Voters of North County has serious concerns about procedures used to fill vacancies on the Oceanside City Council. Our recommendations reflect key positions of the League of Women Voters. The two key relevant positions behind the concern we're bringing to your attention are the citizens' right to know with citizen participation and voting rights. The actions we've seen recently did not involve citizens nor show that you value such involvement. Here's a summary of the appointment process used by the city in December 2018. First, a very compressed time period, with application screening occurring during a major holiday period. 2, no meaningful opportunity for public input or consideration of the candidates. 3, no consistent reporting of information from the interviews or explanations for votes by the mayor or council members about the applicants. The process needs to be corrected before another appointment is made. Members of the City Council represent the people of the community and should be accountable to the public, not just to the mayor and the City Council. In an election, there are opportunities for public statements by candidates, with questions from the public on key issues of concern, and thereby the process demonstrates accountability to the public. The procedures that you used denies public input for the appointment. Our recommendations for future temporary appointments to an elected position are: solicit applicants broadly and provide a standard form for such applications that includes information on key community issues of concern. Hold joint public interviews with opportunity for public questions and answers. And state reasons behind each voting member's recommendations of a candidate. Thank you very much.
We have one late speaker slip. Zach Barrington.
Hello. I'm not real sure what your meeting is about tonight, but it was brought to my attention. First of all, let me tell you what I represent. I represent Oceanside Warriors. It's a football organization here in Oceanside. And we recently received a letter from Judy. Not real sure of her last name, but she deals with Parks and Rec, right? I'm an Oceanside native, born and raised. I represent the children of Oceanside. At this point, we have no place to practice, right? And throughout my childhood growing up, we practiced at Lincoln Junior High School. But right now, our kids of Oceanside practice on baseball fields. Right now, we don't have an option really for our season. So really, we're bringing to your attention that right now we have an emergency on our hands, right? We want football fields rather than felons, right? We live in a different city, right? Take a lot of pride in where we live. Is anybody here from Oceanside? Born and raised? We need your help, okay? Honestly. Our season is coming up. We have our backs to the fence right now, right? And anything you people can do to help us out. We requested, what did we request? MLK? We requested MLK to split with Oceanside Pop Warner. We've been denied. All right, we're at a place now we might have access to, but they're T-ball fields, right? It's kind of hard to teach a kid basketball on a tennis court, right? So anything you guys can do to help us to have a facility for our children that are Oceanside natives, we'd appreciate it. And there are fields here at Mance Buchanan, correct? Rancho Del Oro that we could use. There's no lights there, right? And this is an issue we've dealt with for 15 years, right? We understand soccer is a big part of Oceanside, but we don't play soccer. Right? We play football. Any of you familiar with the football and its sport? It's full of life's lessons, and it changes young men and women's now lives. So speaking for the young or the youth of Oceanside, we need your help with football. All right, we focus on baseball and soccer a lot, but our kids don't play those sports. And we pay taxes here, and we deserve help as well. Right, so anything you guys can do to help us, we'd appreciate it. Maybe we haven't made any direct approach, maybe to talk to Judy, other than our requests, right? But our immediate answer is it's April. Our season starts in 2 months. And right now, we don't have a place to do this. So we have 150 kids relying on us right now. Pretty big deal. I appreciate your time. This is Madeline. She's on the board with Oceanside Warriors. Anything you want to share? No. Okay. Not really sure where we go from here, but we're asking for your help, and I'll contact somebody at Oceanside City Hall to see where we can go from here. I appreciate your time. Have a good day.
Thank you. Let's go to item 23, Mr. Mullen.
Sir, The city manager is going to speak to you, please.
Mr. Mullen, item 23.
Thank you. Item 23 is the adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside amending Chapter 2, Article 9, Division 2 by the addition of Section 2.52 regarding the expenditure of Measure X sales tax proceeds and funds for the construction of an aquatic center at El Corazon.
I'll second. We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
We've been asked to take just a short break, so we will reconvene in 5 minutes to start the public hearings. We will reconvene the City Council meeting. And we're going to start with item 16, which is a public hearing regarding a coastal permit for the Torrey pine trees in the harbor. So we're going to open the public hearing and start with disclosures. Item 16.
I've had staff contact and been a recipient of what's in the trees.
Only staff. Staff and a site visit.
Some emails.
We'll start with Mr. Nightingale.
Good evening, Mayor, honorable council members, members of the public. I'm Scott Nightingale here from the Planning Division to present item number 16 for the adoption of a resolution approving a regular coastal permit to remove 2 dead Torrey pine trees located at 1900 North Harbor Drive. The trees are located in the southeast and northwest end of Parcel K. Each tree is approximately 50 feet in height with a 30-foot crown spread. This coastal permit would also ratify the previous unpermitted removal of 2 Torrey pine trees that were removed back in 2009. Mitigation is proposed for the removal of the 4 trees, which includes plantings of 12, total of 12 15-gallon Torrey pine trees along the eastern landscape slopes of North Harbor Drive to compensate for the loss of the 4 trees. Here's an image of the site. The site is located within the appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone, 1900 Harbor Drive, within the small craft harbor. The site is approximately 1.8 acres in site. It's known as Parcel K, and it consists of the commercial restaurant known as the Jolly Roger. The site is zoned H for harbor. Here's an image of the existing trees that they wish to remove. The trees have been reviewed by a licensed arborist and have been identified as being dead. The trees currently house nests for great blue heron and double-crested chromats. The birds are not considered endangered species per the Migratory Bird Act, but the Act specifies that the eggs of the birds are protected during the nesting season. A little background on the site. Like I said, they are housing the great blue herons and the double-crested cormorants. They've been nesting there for many years. To mitigate for the loss of the potential breeding and nesting locations, the applicant proposes to construct 2 35-foot tall nesting poles and plant 12 15-gallon Torrey pine trees to mitigate for the loss of the trees within the proximity of the harbor, actually in the harbor. On February 18, 2019, the Harbor and Beach Advisory Committee approved the project and recommended approval to the Harbor Board by a vote of 8-0, with which absent, staff has not received any correspondence in opposition to this project. So So here's an image of the actual great blue heron and the birds that are currently in the trees as of now. There is a new condition that will be added, which was added in the last minute here and proposed by the Coastal Commission. I will pass this now to the city clerk to give to you. This added condition will read and will be condition 21. In order to provide potential nesting habitat for the blue herons, the nesting platform should remain in place with monitoring required until the placement trees are large enough to provide adequate nesting habitat at least 5 years, or until the trees have been actively used by nesting herons for at least 2 breeding season cycles, whichever comes first. This has been reviewed by staff, as also the applicant and the Coastal Commission staff. So with that, staff reviewed the project based on the following. It's compatible with the small craft harbor and local coastal program regulations. These trees are, like I said, they are hazardous, they are dead, they need to be removed as soon as possible, so they are a public safety issue, so this is the reason we are asking for this coastal permit. And lastly, it complies with the general plan and the landscaping policies. They will implement additional landscaping throughout the harbor for the additional Torrey pine trees, as well as landscaping in place of where the trees exist now, which will be reviewed by our landscape architect. So with that, staff recommends that you adopt the resolution approving a regular coastal permit to remove 2 dead mature Torrey pine trees located 1900 North Harbor Drive with the required mitigation plan. This concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And the applicant is present.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to address the council on this item? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Rodriguez.
I just motion to approve.
I second.
Councilmember Feller. We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
At this time, we'll go to item 17, which is adoption of a resolution regarding a hotel on 1103 North Coast Highway. And we'll open the public hearing and start with disclosures.
I've seen a presentation from staff. I've visited the site, and I've had our own staff, the applicant as well. Thank you.
Meeting with staff as well as a couple meetings with the applicant.
Staff, the applicant, and I sat through the DAC meeting.
Had a few conversations with residents as well as a meeting with the applicant.
Staff applicant.
All right. Scott Nightingale from the Planning Division, here to present agenda item 7 for the adoption of resolution approving a development plan, 2 conditional use permits, and a regular coastal permit to demolish an existing hotel and restaurant for the construction and operation of a 117-unit hotel with a 3,531 square foot restaurant and a 1,928 square foot event space located at 1103 North Coast Highway. The project is known as the Oceanside Marriott Residence, and the applicant is Dr. Patel. Here is an image of the site. The site is approximately 2.5 acres. It currently exists with the Roadway Inn and the Old Flying Bridge restaurant, which is currently vacant. The site is within the downtown district. It's zone 7B, which permits visitor serving commercial and mixed-use developments. The surrounding uses consist of vacant lands, the San Luis River to the north. You have North Coast Highway and the In-N-Out Burger to the east, vacant commercial building lands to the south, as well as the San Luis River and the Seacliff Terrace condominiums to the west. Here's an image of the existing building off of North Coast Highway and a picture of the Flying Bridge restaurant. Here's an image looking from the harbor parking lot and from the bike trail. The Roadway Inn, the Flying Bridge, currently house 80 rooms. The existing square footage of the restaurant is approximately 8,000 square feet, and both of them were built in the 1960s. A little background: in August 2010, the Community Development Commission approved a tentative map development plan and 2 use permits and a regular coastal permit for the demo of the motel to enable a 127-unit hotel with 27 rooms and a 7,000 square foot restaurant. Since that, they asked for a time extension for a 2-year extension, which was also approved in 2016. On November 2018, the Downtown Advisory reviewed the new current project that we're looking at now, and they voted 6-2 for denial of the project, with committee members Troy C. and Wright as no votes. A majority, actually all the reasons for denial are listed in the staff report. Their major concerns at the DAC meeting were related to architecture, changing of the project from the past, and basically from a Hyatt to a Marriott. And those are all expressed within the staff report. I did provide this slide here to show you that the impacts of the proposed project versus the previously approved are very limited compared to what would be proposed in the past. You have 117 rooms, previously it was 127. They're not required as many parking spaces, but they still are over-parked. They have 153 spaces. They've shrank down the restaurant square footage to 3,500. The meeting space went from 3,900 to approximately 1,928, and they've removed the condominium portion of it. And they are still consistent with the overall 65-foot building height. Ingress and egress to this site will be off of 2 access points off of North Coast Highway. The project, like I said, has 153 parking stalls, which are provided not only in the basement, but on surface front area parking. The basement currently will provide 14 tandem stalls, an elevator, some EV charging stations, as well as 109 parking stalls for the hotel guest and 3 motorcycle stalls. The first level will consist of 17 units and the associated hotel uses and the kind of back of the house hotel uses as well. Second level will have 30 units, as well as third level 35, and the fourth level will also have 35. Majority of the building would be constructed at a height of approximately 53 feet. The portions that exceed that are majority just the tower features, which go up to no taller than 65 feet, which was allowed previously with the approval of CUP, and they're consistent with the previous approval and asking for the same height. The proposed architecture is a mixture of contemporary Mediterranean elements. They've worked with staff to revise and add additional elements to reduce some of the massing, provide some articulations, and staff is good with the design. And this was after the DAC's concerns. So they've worked tremendously with staff to revise the elevations and provide what they have now. The site will be fully landscaped. As you saw in the existing photos, the site is very tired and in need of not only a new development there, but of new landscaping, which would have a new beautified street frontage for North Coast Highway. So in reviewing this project, the project will bring approximately $896 of projected revenue per year. DAC's concerns have been addressed, which are provided in the report. It complies with the local coastal program and general plan. It's also consistent with all of the downtown zoning ordinance development standards in terms of bulk scale, height, and parking. It also will enhance the property as well as the neighborhood and will promote economic activity to an underutilized area of this downtown. So with that, staff recommends that the City Council adopt the resolution approving this project. This concludes our presentation. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Does the applicant wish to make a presentation?
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and public. My name is Alan Tita with Trey Architecture. We're an Oceanside-based firm, and I'd like to also add that I'm an Oceanside resident. I'm here tonight to present the Oceanside Marriott Residence Inn, which is replacing a site of the Roadway Inn and Flying Bridge. We're really excited about this project. It's been a long time coming, and it's definitely going to invigorate North Oceanside as well as the area surrounding. A little project overview here. This project is looking to be a gem of Oceanside. It is at a gateway location to Oceanside, especially driving down from the 5 freeway, and we're looking for this to reinvigorate a dilapidated area. The proposed project consists of a 117-unit hotel with, my eyesight isn't too well, 31 square feet of restaurant and 1928 square feet of event space. A private pool and a large terrace overlooking the harbor and the ocean is part of the project as well. And on-site parking shall be provided, and we've actually overparked with 153 parking stalls. A little hotel overview. The hotel will be a Marriott Residence Inn. The Marriott Residence Inn is a quality product and a step up from the previous product, which was approved as a Hyatt Place. The hotel will provide a pool, spa, viewing decks to complement the building and provide additional amenities to the hotel guests. The meeting and event space will provide guests with flexible use for them to conduct meetings of any type and however they seem necessary. A little restaurant overview. The Flying Bridge restaurant will be operated by families from Oceanside for the people of Oceanside. And it's actually a big part of this. We're looking for this to be a very local restaurant in the flavor of maybe LTH and 333, something that can really be a great amenity for the hotel. The restaurant will have a local chef to create unique beach-themed, sustainable, local, and fresh menu with a full bar. The restaurant will use local ingredients like fish, produce, breads, sauces, and etc. Truly making the Flying Bridge brand a tribute to that is good, all is good in Oceanside. The restaurant setting will be polished, casual, upscale dining vibe in a casual setting, and we'll have views that overlook the harbor, and we have expanded decks and cantilever decks to really capture the harbor view. Touching on some of the technical components of the project, the architecture. As Scott Nightingale pointed out, we've been working closely with staff to help upgrade the building and address all of the Downtown Advisory Committee's comments. The project is very rich in materials. We've actually looked at other projects, I'll skip forward a little bit, in different areas along the coast, the St. Regis and Laguna Niguel, the Ritz-Carlton in Laguna Niguel, the Estancia Hotel, and actually some projects in Santa Barbara. So we've really captured some of the Mediterranean coastal vibe and provided some rich details such as the curved metal awnings and Juliet balcony. Let's step back here. The proposed architecture is inspired by the vernacular Mediterranean styling seen throughout coastal Oceanside. The tower element is going to act as a beacon, which we envision to be illuminated to act as that gateway draw as people are driving the freeway as well as along the coast highway. The textures and colors have been applied to the architecture to articulate the elevations and provide richness at the street frontage. Terraces, balconies, and decks help break down that massing while taking advantage of the spectacular view. So we're looking for these decks to really capture that harbor view, the ocean view. The interior design, as well as the architecture, some of the exterior terrace elements are going to pull in some beach themes. We're looking for very beach-inspired elements within the interior design. As Scott's touched on, the site is existing Roadway Inn and Flying Bridge restaurant. As you see here in the aerial, the Flying Bridge restaurant definitely protrudes out over the edge, and that's an area where we've actually retracted the project limits. Also, in the near future, they're realigning the bridge, and we're actually losing a part of our project, which is actually part of the reason why the density has been reduced. As you see here, here's an overlay of that aerial. The red indicates the existing Flying Bridge restaurant, so the project is definitely pulled back in scope and limits. We've actually pulled the project back, loss of land due to the bridge alignment, and the project actually is at 8,111 square feet of overall reduction of the project limits. So the project is actually considerably less than what it is existing there right now, which helps out with view impact along the corridor there, and as well as just massing. As I touched on, the architecture really is inspired by Mediterranean vernacular, and we really look at it as a very rich architecture that's going to really invigorate that area. A few more views here. We are looking to keep the brown Flying Bridge. We've actually distinguished it architecturally here with a different material, and so we're hoping that that actually helps draw people to this hotel. The site impacts on this project. The project design meets or exceeds the applicable development standards, as Scott touched on. The proposed parking exceeds the requirements. The environmental impact report concluded that the project would have no significant impacts, including traffic, noise, air, and water quality. There's no significant impacts to sensitive habitats. And the proposed development will enhance the overall visual quality of the area. Like I started the presentation, we're excited about this project. I think it's actually a wonderful project for Oceanside. As an Oceanside resident, I'm very excited for that area to be revitalized. I go down to that area quite a bit. I'm a soccer coach for the Oceanside Breakers. We have our soccer tournament down at the beach. I'm headed there actually Friday. This is my route to the beach and to the harbor. I'm thrilled at this project and thrilled for this project. So we really appreciate your review of this project and appreciate your approval. The client, as well as our consultant team, is here to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
This is a public hearing. Are there any members of the public who wish to address this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm actually really excited for this project. I think it's going to be huge for our city, and I want to thank you for your patience and working with the community and making those revisions through the different community meetings, just so we can, take our community's voice and input into the project. I really appreciate that. The event space is going to be huge. We need more of that downtown for weddings, for get-togethers, for gathering, for corporate events. So I think that's going to be a huge benefit and plus. And you guys have the best view in Oceanside, so I'm excited to see this go in and get a nice new restaurant in place. Another place I can take my wife to on a date. So I would like to just make a motion to approve this project.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you, and I did have a couple of questions. Could you come back up? Sorry. So yes, I'm really excited, really have been missing the Flying Bridge. I've spent many early evening watching the sunset from there. It is the best view for having a restaurant and entertainment later on with music and all that. So that's part of the things that we talked about during the meeting. And the meeting space is something that we definitely need in Oceanside. So I'm really glad that this is a part of it. So you're definitely keeping the Flying Bridge restaurant or the Flying Bridge name?
That's in discussion still, but that's actually probably a number one priority to keep that name.
Okay, so is that part of the conditions of the approval? Is it?
Of course not. What? You're good? You're good making it? We want it.
So, okay. Well, that'll definitely get us back there, and yes. I think you want us because we like to spend money there. So one of the things that we talked about in our meeting, and I was really appreciative of having that, chance to talk without a whole lot of, other people there. But one of the things was one of the ideas that you had was to, I think you were thinking about having bicycles for residents and being able to take advantage of the bike trail. You know, it's right off the street that goes in, to be able to have access. So access was one of the things that we talked about. And were you able to do that? Do you remember if you were able to do that on this?
So I've spoken with Dr. Patel. He can speak to it a little bit, but I believe he has had conversations with Concordia.
Hi, Dr. Patel.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good evening, Council. I'm Shantu Patel. We had a conversation with Concordia, who owns Costa Pacifica, and Costa Pacifica is a private road, and they would prefer that the access be from a public road. So that's where the conversation ended.
Okay, so you're not going to be able to provide pedestrian access.
So the pedestrian access would be not directly from the south side of the hotel, but it will be along North Coast Highway, and then they can turn right on Costa Pacifica.
Okay.
So there is access, but it's not directly from the hotel.
All right. Thanks for letting me know that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I'm really looking forward to this. Been waiting to see when this was going to come back to us. So thank you very much for making the changes on the architecture, because it does look definitely better. I did have a question about what was the objection to having the turns onto the site? Because right now I think you can go in the middle, right? Isn't there a turning lane in the middle? As I recall.
Turning lane.
It says some of the concerns raised by the committee included proposed left turns onto the site.
So we do have 2 entry points. So there's left turns. We have been working very, very closely with traffic and as well as fire. So we do have 2 entries, one primary entry at the north end of the project. So I believe a left-hand turn is allowed.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I'm not sure of that concern.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about some of the concerns that were in the staff report, but yeah, I'm going to be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Scott, would you call this the Flying Bridge restaurant like the trees in the harbor dead? I think it served its purpose, and for many of us who have spent a lot of meetings there, everything down in the basement, and the chamber had so many events there early on, but it's definitely what I thought would be a great addition to that end of the harbor, and like Councilmember Rodriguez said, you're going to have one of the premier views, unobstructed views in the entire state of the Pacific Ocean. So I think the only thing I'd add is that maybe make those lights real bright on the tower aimed out at the freeway to kind of attract that attention. Thanks.
I would just like to say that after listening to what occurred at the DAC meeting, I want to thank the developer and his team for addressing their issues and modifying the architecture to upgrade it. And with that, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
At this time, we'll go to item 18, which is adoption of a resolution regarding the Emerald Ridge project. And we'll open the public hearing and start with disclosures.
Staff, I've had letters. I've driven by the site a number of times. I drive by the site all the time, actually. So there are, I'm I'm satisfied I have heard this from every avenue, so thank you.
Staff, the developer, I've done a couple site visits.
Staff, members of the public, and I've also went by the site and have met with the developer's representatives.
Members of the public, emails, I've driven by this several times over the years, so very familiar with it.
Site visits.
So at this time, we'll start with a presentation by staff, and then the appellant will have an opportunity to make a presentation, and then the applicant and the appellant will have a total of 20 minutes, which includes rebuttal time. So, Sergio?
Thank you, Mayor Weiss and members of the City Council. The item before you is a consideration of an appeal of an approved tentative map and development plan, which would allow the development of a 48-unit townhome complex at the vacant parcel located at Sunset Drive and Skyhaven Lane. The site's located in a unique part of the city in that it's surrounded by two additional municipalities. Existing uses to the north and west include age-restricted mobile home park, non-age restricted mobile home park, some vacant land, some single-family residences within the city of Vista. To the east and south are rural residential and a church located in the unincorporated part of San Diego County. To the south, in the city of Oceanside, there's an existing age-restricted development known as Pacifica and some vacant land that's zoned single-family residential. The project site has an existing general plan land use designation of high-density residential, which allows the development of base density of 21 dwelling units per acre and up to a maximum potential density of 28.9 dwelling units per acre. The site also has is within the high-density residential zoning district. So this graphic before you shows the proposed development overlaid on an aerial. It would include an access drive off of a realigned part of Sunset Drive, a single access with a loop road inside. There will be 9 buildings with 48 units total clustered around that access drive in the northeast portion of the project site. There will also be a 19-space guest parking lot and 2 common recreational facilities. One would be in the center of the project site, which would include shade structures, barbecues, and a fountain and fire pit. There will also be a large open space at the southwest portion of the project site that includes a walking trail and a tot lot. As proposed, the project complies with all the relevant and applicable development standards of the RH district as outlined in the table on the screen. It includes, with respect to building height, setbacks, density, and required parking. The project's been designed in the modern architectural vernacular with 2 different color schemes, rich use of stucco finishes with some stone veneer used. It'll have stand-and seam metal roofs, and about 30 of the 48 units would have rooftop decks on the 3rd story. So the project will also be required to install a number of off-site improvements, which include currently the Sunset Drive has that current alignment, which is outlined in red on the screen, which dips down into the project site. Sunset Drive would be realigned to previously dedicated right-of-way, which is located within the city of Vista. There will also be an installation of a traffic control signal at the intersection of Sunset Drive and Skyhaven Lane. There will be sidewalk installed along both sides of Skyhaven Lane along the project's frontage and along the project's frontage on Sunset Drive. In addition, there will be a new bus turnout built at the southwest corner of the project site. There will also be a construction of a new storm sewer system within Sunset Drive, which will hook up to an existing storm structure near Buena Vista Creek up Emerald Drive there. And there will also be an extension of an 8-inch public water line for approximately 3,000 lineal feet, which will provide for a looped city water infrastructure. And finally, there will be a new public sewer lift station constructed at the southwest corner of the project site, which will replace an existing sewer lift station in Skyhaven Lane. So the appellant has raised 10 different issues in their letter of appeal. I'm going to go through them real quickly and answer any questions that you might have. So the first item was that the Planning Commission didn't like the project. Planning Commission approved the project unanimously. Some Planning Commissioners did express concern regarding potential traffic impacts, compatibility with surrounding development, and potential greenhouse gas emissions associated with traffic. And some commissioners did note that the project was consistent with the zoning, and the public benefits, public improvements would be seen as a benefit to the community. Staff kind of did an analysis. We did an analysis of surrounding development within the 1,500-foot radius notification area. We found that the project is consistent with existing development patterns in that development density ranges within the 1,500-foot notification radius go from as low as 0.728 units per acre in the unincorporated county portion of developed area, up to about 17.5 units an acre for a project closer to Thunder Drive. This project is the average density was 7.2 units per acre, and this project's being developed at a density of 6.17 units per acre, which is well below the base density of the high-density residential land use designation. So as proposed, the project is consistent with existing development patterns in the area, and it's consistent with its zoning and land use designations. The appellant was concerned with potential traffic safety associated with the project. Currently, the project, Skyhaven Lane and Sunset Drive operate at a level service C during the peak hour periods. The segment of Sunset Drive currently operates at a level service F. And the project is expected to contribute approximately 384 trips per day to the circulation network, with 31 of those trips occurring in the AM peak hour and 38 trips occurring in PM peak hour.
If you could please keep your comments so we can complete the presentation. Thank you.
With implementation of the project in the realigned portion of Sunset Drive, the level of service is anticipated to raise to a level of service A for the intersection of Skyhaven and Sunset, and the segment of Emerald Drive is expected to go from a level service F to a level service D. Improvements include the widening of the road. There will be dedicated left-hand turn pockets into the project site, a dedicated left-hand turn pocket onto Skyhaven Lane. On Skyhaven Lane, improvements would include a left-hand turn pocket for left-hand turn movements onto Sunset Drive, in addition to the signalized intersection. The appellant also brought up the opinion that there wasn't adequate parking provided. The projects provided 8 additional spaces than what's required by the zoning ordinance. Under the zoning ordinance, 2 spaces are required for each unit with more than 2 bedrooms. The project has provided 96 tenant spaces. In addition, the zoning ordinance requires 1 space plus 20% the total number of units for guest parking, which would be 11 spaces required. And the project's been designed with 19 guest parking spaces. The appellant brought up a concern of renters versus owners. So if the project's going to be owned by someone but rented out, they didn't care for that. So the project entitlements do include an application for a tentative map that indicates that it will be a for-sale project. The city doesn't have any regulations which would prohibit or preclude an owner from renting out their privately owned units at market rate. And the project's private CC&Rs would dictate whether or not the private owner has the ability to rent out their unit. Appellate issue number 5 was that the project is in a non-age restricted community surrounded by age restricted communities. And to some extent that is true. There are 4 age restricted communities which surround the project site within the 1,500-foot notification radius, but there's also 7 non-age restricted communities within that same radius. There are no restrictions, again, that the city has in place on this parcel or any parcel for that matter that would prohibit non-age restricted development at the site. The appellant brought up the noise associated with the project. The project will have some temporary construction noise, which was examined through the adopted MND for the project, the mitigated negative declaration for the project through the CEQA process. The noise is regulated by Chapter 38 of the Municipal Code, and it's enforced by the Code Enforcement Division and the Police Department. And there was an updated acoustical noise assessment prepared, which analyzed the roof decks, and there was no impacts found associated with that amenity of the project, other than there's just going to be conversational noise. That the 7th point that the appellant made was that the high density zoning of the project site, when did it occur? It's not appropriate, it shouldn't be there. The project was rezoned to R3 in 1985 with the comprehensive or the general plan update in 1988. The designation changed for to RH, which allows the same number of units per acre. Again, to emphasize, the project's being developed well below that at just over 6 units an acre. The appellant also expressed concerns regarding fire and emergency access. Again, implementation of the project is expected to improve traffic circulation in the area. It could be determined that there will be better, if traffic circulation is improving, it's logical that emergency access would be improved. The fire department did review this project, and they provided no concerns regarding emergency access to the site or to the immediate vicinity. And the fire department did review and approve the project subject to a number of conditions of approval contained within the adopted resolution. Appellant issues number 9 was the geotechnical concerns with the project site. There are 2 ancient landslides present at the project site. One is located near the southwest corner of the project site where no development is to occur with respect to habitable space or occupied space. There will be an open space area located on that site, and there will also be a guest parking lot. That part of the site also contains a stockpile of fill material that was placed there in the late 1970s. About 15 feet in height of that stockpile is going to be taken down, therefore relieving pressure on that ancient landslide. And it's going to be spread out over the other portion of the site, which is to be developed. Landslide area number 2 is located. About half of the project's units will be developed over there. There has been a geotechnical investigation prepared for the site, which includes recommendations on how to prepare the site for development. Incorporation of those recommendations would ensure that the geotechnical engineering standards for site development are fulfilled. And finally, the appellant expressed concerns regarding noticing with the projects. There were at least 7 different notices mailed out for this project. Most recently, the applicant provided us a updated mailing list to make sure that every current resident and property owner received a mailed notice regarding this project. Here's a photo simulation of the project site. Staff is recommending adoption of a resolution upholding the Planning Commission's approval of the project. That concludes my staff report, and I'd be available for any questions that you might have.
At this time, we would hear from the appellant, Mrs. Barbara De La Torre.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I was told, is that what I can show pictures on? If I put something, is that the camera?
Yes, and if you could pull the mic down.
I'm sorry. So I just set it there and it'll show? Okay. All right. Well, thank you for allowing us to come and speak before you to present our concerns about the Emerald Ridge project that is proposed to come into our neighborhood. With limited time, I'll present as quickly and thoroughly as possible our information, hoping to address the points we'd like you to take into consideration before deciding whether or not to approve this project. I'll address the matters as presented in the staff report for tonight's meeting. The first issue that was brought up was about the members of the Planning Commission did not like the project. And it was emphasized in the staff report that the project passed by unanimous 6-0 vote. But what was not mentioned was the very strong statements by at least 3 of the members that the project did not fit in the neighborhood and that they did not agree with the zoning. One of the quotes was, "It feels a little bit like we're dumping on our neighbors, like the Quarry Ridge project put hundreds of homes on us and we had to deal with the impacts and not get the property taxes. It feels like that." Another commissioner said, "I have the same concerns. I came in on Skyhaven on purpose because I wanted to see what the neighborhood looked like. At least 5 speed bumps. There's already a speeding problem. This will impact the neighborhood with a whole lot more traffic. Everyone on these roads is going to be impacted. While I understand the zoning is correct, I don't agree with it being 3 stories either. I think it's not reflecting what is currently there, and one of the things we're supposed to be looking for is, does it fit in the neighborhood? I don't think it does. Again, I can't find grounds to disapprove the project, but I don't think we've done the right thing. I see a lot of reasons why this is wrong." And a third commissioner said, before we vote, I just want to mention that I'm going to be voting yes, and most of us are. We know that it's problematic. You're hearing us about this, but our hands are tied due to the nature of the Planning Commission. The zoning allows for this, so we're not able as a quasi-judicial body to be able to say, I just don't like it. So we can't do it, unfortunately. But you can appeal a decision of the Planning Commission to the City Council and have them hear it and see if they don't like it. They're the ones in charge of zoning in the first place. This is a problematic issue. The neighborhood character is absolutely a big part of this. The cumulative effects, traffic, greenhouse gas emissions, and just the impact on our neighbors, both in the city and without. We hear you. And so these quotes and these concerns, especially before taking a vote encouraging us to appeal this project, I believe does actually show that their vote did not reflect their true intentions about this project. The second issue...
Thank you for your applause. At this point, I would ask you to hold your applause until everything's done. Thank you.
Okay. The second issue that was proposed was that the proposed project is not compatible with development in the surrounding area. And the 7th issue was high-density zoning designation of the project. I put both those together because they both relate to each other. And looking at the summary of the environmental factors that would be potentially significant unless mitigated in the MND, over half, 11 of the 19 categories, fall under this category. And so we believe that one of the other very important categories, aesthetics, should have also been included, but was not, because we believe it's directly related to these issues. And under aesthetics, it states that, does the project substantially degrade the existing visual character or quality of the site or its surroundings? The MND states, while the project would result in permanent changes to the visual environment, it has been designed to create an aesthetically pleasing development that would be, quote, compatible with the existing and planned character of the Lake neighborhood planning area. And I'll get back to that in just a second. But I did want to make a point, and I did, in my appeal to you, I made a circle. It was a very rough circle. I just got a compass and drew a circle. But what I was trying to show there, and I believe I said within the mailing label list. And so it was a circle showing that the project was in the middle, and these 5 communities were being affected because they are on the same streets. They're in the same neighborhood. But I think that staff took that and they instead literally meant 1,500 feet, and then they added all these extra projects to the area that aren't even in our neighborhood. So the yellow ones are what I meant, and that's what's in our neighborhood. The Emerald Ridge project, which is a project, the county pocket, the Emerald Lake Village, Green Valley, Pacifica, Rancho Calavera, and Santiago Estates. These other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 projects that were added in here and were, I could only identify 2 of them. One is over by the DMV and has access off Thunder. They don't care what we're doing. And only a few of those got mailing labels anyways. And the Monaco Springs, they exit out by Costco. So they never use our street system either. The other 3, I couldn't find them, but I think they are, same map, but as far as I can tell, I think they're like the little corner over here is one, this may be one. You see, there's just few areas here. Those are just a few areas there that aren't the center projects around the neighborhood. And I think this is highly important because it's giving a false description of what the neighborhood is. It isn't properties over by Thunder that happen to be 2-story, whatever they are, apartments. This is the area I'm talking about. Now I'm coming back to the neighborhood, the lake neighborhood map. And it was, as I stated, that the project is compatible with the existing and planned character of the lake neighborhood planning area, which is this. In the red outlined area, that's the lake neighborhood planning area. I added the project, you can see it in the circle right there, it says project. The area that I'm defining as the neighborhood, which shares the yellow roads, the same streets at Skyhaven and that's Sunset leading out up there to Highway 76 and Costco, is the neighborhood that pertains to this. Those other areas are, like I said, by the DMV, they don't pertain to this. They don't even come on our road. So according to this, you can see that these are all single-family detached houses. And these circle the project, which is a 3-story condominium project. So this is, I don't even know if there is another 3-story condominium project in the area. There's 2-story by the DMV and some apartments, and then there's some 3-story businesses over here that house seniors for Alzheimer and all of that. Those are businesses. So this is the lake neighborhood planning area. This is what they say that they are, they're adhering to. It says compatible with the existing and planned character of the lake neighborhood planning area. That project smack dab in the middle and does not fit. Let's see. Also, I wanted to talk about the land use element. And so I know that there's a lot of talk in the paperwork about that it could have been high density at 21, but it's 6.1, something like that. That's dwelling units per acre, and I get it. That's great. But the city also doesn't just rely on that for projects. And in the, I can't really see it. I'll just read it. Okay. In the residential unit types consistent with residential designations, it states the residential land use designations shall reflect residential unit or building types of residential development, not simply the overall number of dwelling units per acre. And all I've heard is dwelling units per acre. Hey, we're down to 6.2. We're just like you. We're great. But it is not the same type. And this chart out of the land use element, shows that we're all over there. We're over there in a single family detached. The mobile homes are over there, all the county homes, all the pink. They're way over here on the MUS, multifamily unit structure. And so they aren't anywhere near the types, the above residential family development types. They're not fitting in is the point. They don't fit in, and that's part of what is stated, that it cannot be simply the overall number of dwelling units per acre. It also has to be the... Okay. Then you can see, let's see, we'll wait on that. Okay. The third area, traffic, and I'm not doing all 10 areas, so don't worry. The third area, the traffic safety and adequate parking. So the latest traffic studies were conducted in, our traffic counts were done on October 26, 2016. The August 2nd, 2018 revised date on the traffic report only refers to answering questions that the Visitor Traffic Division had asked in March 15 of 2018. Therefore, the studies and the counts were done over 2 years ago. And I think all of our neighbors here that actually do live in the neighborhood can tell you how much traffic's increased in the last 2 years. It's incredible. In fact, the county road, Sunset, just right up from the project, they had to put 2 stop signs in on Sunset because there was so much traffic. And so we feel like that these are old studies and they do not reflect truly what's happening there. Another concern is the traffic generated in front of the Green Valley mobile homes. And traffic counts that were done showed that the mobile home, Emerald Drive mobile home park access to Hacienda Drive was rated an E for volume to capacity rate, with a project at a 0.015, and Sunset Drive, Skyhaven Lane to the mobile home park, Green Valley, access is also rated as an E, volume to capacity rate threshold of 0.016. Well, what's failing is 0.020. So there, I spoke with Mr. Amberson, and he said that it could be stated that these numbers are only 1/100th of a point off, and new studies could easily put them to failing, and that that would require mitigation. And I think that these folks that live at Green Valley, that they deserve to have a correct study done there, and if they needs mitigating, that they should be that should be done for them. They already have major troubles getting out of their facility, and being 55 plus, their reflexes are lower, impaired sight, impaired hearing. So we just really strongly believe that that should not go by. Another area we disagree is the 48 condominium complex with only 31 trips that will occur in the AM and 38 in the PM. And we know that you're using, I think it's a 2002 or 2001 traffic manuals, and we get it. They haven't made new ones since. But you guys know in Oceanside, and according to Mr. Amberson as well, there's a crisis in Oceanside with these apartments and these condos in the areas of overflow parking. And what's happening is these houses, back when these studies were done, 2002, yeah, maybe one person could work and afford the mortgage or the rent. But right now, it's going to take 2 people usually to work. And these homes, these 3-story homes, are not going to be housing 55 and older. 55 and older are looking for 1-story homes because medically and physically trying to go up and down 3 stories is not going to fit in. That's why they're all in 1-story mobile homes. That's why the whole area is surrounded by 1 story. And so these will be younger families, mid-age families who are going to have teenage drivers. Also, Oceanside does not have a bus system anymore except for special ed. So you're going if you got one person working, somebody else got to be driving the kids to school. The teenager's going to be driving to work. So it's unbelievable to think that actually the low 30s at peak hours coming from 48 units. It would probably be at least triple that amount. And like I said, other places have this problem. And so, let's see. Oh, so it's been stated that the level of service of the project site entrance, it will require mitigation, major mitigation, because if it fails. And so what they're proposing to do is to push Sunset Road out towards Santiago Estates 125 feet from the center line and put in a traffic signal. This will also allow the project to move out onto the existing road and put several of their condos in that area. And I think you saw that picture from Mr. Sergio. I only know you by Sergio. So you can see how the road is being, the current road is there under the yellow buildings, and they're pushing the road out so they can put their buildings there. They wouldn't have a project unless they push the road out. And that road services all of us. And so we believe that, that the movement of the road and to create a new road will not necessarily help our neighborhood. The softened road, or softened curve as they call it, will create a road that is shortened, and the approach will be steepened, simple physics. Going from 10% fall to 15% fall, which is significant. And with red light at the bottom, what can cause sudden stops where there are none now. People coming around the bend at the stated speed of 45 miles per hour, which currently it's 35, will try to beat the light. At the top of the hill, they'll go around the curb. The city even requires that the project shall install an advanced flashing beacon on Sunset Drive in a northwest-bound direction to provide advance warning of the new traffic signal due to horizontal and vertical curvatures of the roadway. If the city wants to make the road more safe for us, although there's plenty of those curves in the city, but anyways, if you want to make this curve safer for us, then go ahead and put in a sign that says, curve ahead, 15 miles per hour. We don't have anything like that. The trees there are blocking the view. They say, oh, you'll get a better sight. Take down the eucalyptus trees that are blocking the view on the curve, and we'll be satisfied with a nice, safe road. Inadequate parking, again, talking with John Amberson, that there are many areas, especially downtown, wherever there's apartments and condos and these type of areas. The Riverview Apartments is a recent project that was approved, but John said he went down there and saw with his own eyes overflow, trash, all kinds of things in the neighborhood. And so, and we have a place in Oceanside, same thing. We're up from apartments. They're all over our private road, all over our house where we live. Okay, and let me just finish up here. Regarding the landslide, I do want to address that. There is the geotechnical concerns. And as is already stated, there's 2 landslides. And the landslide one, they're not going to build on because it would take major digging down, and the toe goes down to Buena Creek. It's too big. So they're going to build on landslide 2, and they're going to need over-excavation and recompaction and construction of shear keys and installation of a subdrain. Landslide 2 is approximately 20 to 30 feet below the site. So they're going to be digging on the other side of the road, 30 feet down, and trying to reach bedrock, and then trying to shear key it up to hopefully hold that landslide back. But it says that this will reduce the landslide impacts, but it's not going to eliminate them. And what they're doing is they are very good, taking half the weight off of that landslide 2, but then to remove the landslide off, the weight off the landslide is a good thing. But they're taking that and they're putting it on landslide 1, and they're putting it on landslide 2. So, rob Peter to pay Paul. And then on top of that, they're building 48 3-story condominiums. And so that extra weight on there, sheer key or not, is not a good thing for a landslide. In addition, water is a major contributor to soil shifting and reactivating landslides, thus the need for major dewatering drain system. And they're going to insert a drain system in there with all kinds of tubes to pull the water out, and it's going to drain down into Buena Vista Creek. And that already is a mess, and it's the sides are okay. if you just give me one more minute, I'll just close it out. I don't really, does that mean I'm done, or does that give me?
Yes, your 20 minutes is over. So if
Okay.
you could wrap it up, please.
Okay. Pardon me?
Wrap it up.
Okay, I'll wrap it up. Okay, then I would just like to thank you for taking the time to listen, and that this isn't a normal property. It consists of 2 line sides and mostly not developable. That's why over 40 years they've never developed there. And it would cause major disruption for us. And the owner knew when he bought this place there are 2 landslides, and sorry if he can't put his 200 high-density units there that don't fit in the neighborhood anyways. But we hope that you won't don't let the promise of 7 public benefits the project's going to bring to the city make this decision for you. When the right project comes along, these upgrades and benefits will come then. The citizens are counting for you to look out for their health, safety, and welfare of the existing community. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If you could please calm down. This is the time for the developer if he'd like to make a presentation. And Mrs. De La Torre, just so you know, you have no time left for rebuttal.
Good evening, Mayor Weiss and City Council. Thank you for listening to us. And actually, Paul Garrett, the owner. I'm Philip Jones. I'm the owner's representative. I've been working on this project for 20 years. When Paul bought this 20 years ago, he was expecting to, have a project, much sooner than this. He's now 93, just turned 93 last week, and he was looking forward to coming and testifying and speaking, but had a stroke last night. So he gives his apologies and, would like to know that he would like to be here. First of all, I'd like to go ahead, and I know there's 10 things that were addressed. I'd like to go actually to number 10 first, because, we had 3 open meetings, and that we sent out 738 invitations to come to. I would have loved to have all of you had attended that. This would have been a much easier hearing. Well, we went to our radius that was told to us by the city, so that's what we followed. But out of the 738, the first meeting we had 31 attendees. The second one we had 13, and the third one we had 17. So we did try to do an outreach program. We did it 3 times. We'd love to have had you, attend that. We could have addressed all these issues. In fact, we did. Going back to the first item, the City Planning Commission, Oceanside, did vote this 6-0, and whatever their thoughts were, I don't know, but they did vote 6-0. The second thing is, this is a zoned high-density project. We didn't zone it. We didn't petition the zoning. We bought it when it was zoned. Yes, the project, the property to the south is rural residential. It's non-restricted. The property to the east is not restricted. To the, north, west, it's, north is restricted. It's manufactured homes, and to the south, we abut Oceanside, and that is restricted. There's one house that is contiguous to our project. But we did go ahead and notify, we sent them out. I don't know why, if you didn't get them, why you didn't, because we did send those out. As far as, the rental issue, this project, number one, is going to be governed by CCNRs, which Sergio did mention that. Also, there's an HOA to endorse those or enforce those CCNRs. And I think that, with those restrictions, you're going to maintain a high quality of that project. As far as the interior use, now I have to compliment Sergio. He went over all these issues before, so I can only, second what he said, as far as some of the position of the staff. And we worked hard with the staff. We tried to work hard with the neighbors. Unfortunately, not a lot of them showed up. But we did incorporate, a large park area. It was 10,000 square foot of lawn area. We've got a play lot. We've got interior courtyards. We have a lot of open space and recreation for the residents, for the 48 townhouse residents of that project. There was a comment about the noise. Now, of course, we did the noise as far as the what impacts noise from the outside to the project, but there was concerns about the noise that was generating from the project to the residents or the neighbors. We did another study, and that was reported. It says, based upon the findings, no exterior noise levels were identified which would exceed the city's general plan noise abatement standards, including the westerly open space, recreational area, the internal located tot lots, the rooftop deck areas. No remedial exterior noise mitigation would be required on this project. This was done on February 22nd, 2019 by ISE. I'm going to go ahead and have our traffic engineer address some of the traffic issues, and I'm going to ask Bill Darnell to step up and address some of the traffic comments that were mentioned.
My name is Bill Darnell with Darnell and Associates. I'm responsible for preparing the traffic study for this project. I've been working on projects in the city of Oceanside for probably 30 years. And so I've done a lot of work here. The project itself is going to generate 384 daily trips to 36 a.m. and 38 p.m. peak hour trips. Those rates are based on nationally published rates. We're using actually the SANDAG, not so brief trip generation rates. They're actually higher than the Institute of Transportation Engineers rates, other public agencies. So I feel very comfortable with the rates. And I've been doing this for over 50 years, so I'm comfortable with that. I think the key issue here is I hear the residents saying they have a bad condition out here on Sunset. And when I started on this project in 2015, that was my first conclusion when I met with city staff. And so we started looking at how can we make this improvement better. We started investigating. And what we found is that there was right-of-way that had been dedicated along what is now what would be the north side of the realigned Sunset. And we started figuring out how can we use that. And it's worked out. And so we developed this concept of how to improve the capacity. If you didn't improve it, you were really subject to accidents and other conditions. This is going to improve the conditions there significantly. The level of service F on the roadway segments is based on the published daily rate We've also analyzed the peak hour rates, which is really when the bulk of the traffic is moving through here, and it's operating at an acceptable level of service. You look at the timing on the signals. The intersection will improve traffic conditions significantly. It barely meets the minimum warrants for a traffic signal. Meaning warrants doesn't mean that you have to install it, but you usually like to make sure you meet those minimum warrants. And the installation of the traffic signal will include vehicle preemption for the fire, so they can get green lights, get through the areas from that standpoint. Like I said, I work very closely with that. We follow the city's guidelines, and technically the city's guidelines say that a full-blown traffic study like we've done here would be required if we generated more than 1,000 daily trips. We don't generate more than 1,000 daily trips. When we first came in to the project, to the city, we had focused on what do we do with the Skyhaven and Sunset intersection. And that's where the discussion, they said, well, you're going to be working with Vista. Let's see what Vista, let's look at the whole corridor from here up to the freeway there. So I feel very comfortable. I've been, like I said, I am a registered civil engineer and a registered traffic engineer, and I'm very confident in my recommendations on this project. And if there's any other questions, be glad to answer them.
If I can go ahead and speak from this mic, is that okay? Okay. As far as the geotechnical issues, Jim Knowlton did the review of that. I don't know if Jim has any questions about or any comments that we could he has on this project, because the slide area, I mean, I can speak from a layman's standpoint or a developer standpoint, but not as a geotechnical. Anyway, so I'll go ahead and give you my thoughts on it. The second slide, the first slide is true. That's going to be too costly, and there's slides everywhere in Oceanside, in this whole area. There's, if you weren't going to build on any slides, you wouldn't be building probably, because there's so many different slides here. It's how you treat the slides. That's the important thing. And that's how you go ahead and rebuild, restructure those soils. Just like if you have alluvial or if you have liquefaction, you go back in there and you excavate, you recompact, you restructure it, you build it, you construct the soil so it's safe to build on. You do the same thing with slides. So we do keys, we do benches, and we reconstructed with all the guidelines and all the construction methods that are available to us. So we feel very confident, with our geotechnical engineers and the city of Oceanside to go ahead and stabilize that second, which is not that deep. As far as the I think that pretty much wraps my testimony, except that I appreciate the time you've allowed me to speak. I hope that you do agree with the applicant and that you approve this project. If you do have any questions as a civil engineer, we do have our civil engineer here. If you have any questions about that, and of course you've heard from our traffic engineer. Do you have any questions?
Seeing none, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, Mr. Navarro, how many speakers do we have?
We currently have 15 speakers on this issue.
So call them up and we'll have 2 minutes each.
Okay. First speaker is Mary Riley, to be followed by Richard Goldberg, to be followed by Mary Lou Lamb.
If he called your name, you can come up to either podium. We've been asked to take just a short break, so we will reconvene at 7:35.